It's time to clean out the interior, starting with removing all the carpet. This revealed a few surprises. First was this fossilized creature, which I asked David Attenborough about.
This is a titanosaur. I'd say that it was about 40 meters long, which is as long as 3 double-decker buses in line, and that it could reach up to the top of a 5-story building.
Moving on to some good news. While cleaning this out, I started to come into some money. Yep. A 41-year-old 1-cent coin. It's unusual. Well, I learned something. In the US, coins flip differently. Here in Australia, they flip left to right, not up and down. Moving on, not everything was good news though. There were some pretty shabby repairs in the floor sections. Someone had used 2 sheets of galvanized sheet metal and about 10 kilos of filler to try and hide the rust in this floor. This needed to come out, so I started to cut out the sections that looked bad, which seemed to grow the more I looked. It turned out both sides of the floor needed removing. This is really going to challenge my fabricating skills. These floors are a little unique, they're not flat. They have the strengthening channels. There is a step down, curved corners, and an upward bend. Gathering the shapes for the floor proved to be a bit of a jigsaw. With the shape and floor pattern finally captured, it was time to create the strengthening channels. On his YouTube channel, Trev's blog, Trevor shows how to create distortion-free bead rolling by pre-stretching your material using an English wheel first. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Check it out. Because of the size of this panel, I really struggled with this bead roller. And I think that it's a little bit too high, and the switch, which is a foot pedal, is quite awkward to work with. I can see another project coming up in the future to fix this and make it easier to work with. Because of the rounded corners on this piece, I'll be using hammer forming for the step-down bends. Using solid ply, I created the shape of the buck that I'll be using and rounded the edges with a router. Previous experience has taught me to keep this securely bolted together to avoid any movement while hammering. The rounded corners gives a lot of excess material which will need to be shrunk, and for that I'll be using my shrinker. The size of this panel made it difficult to work with, and I needed to get into some unusual positions to get it to work. But the effort was worth it, and it's come out quite well. I just needed to repeat this process a few times and ended up with a reasonable panel. To create the upward bend, I use the shrinker again. I use it on the edges, right around the area where I wanted it to come up, and that worked quite well. I'm optimistic with the final product.